welcome to another interview with Gamers Social Club. Before we dive into our conversations with Erik, for anything from Gamers Social Club when it comes to our news, reviews, guides, interviews, be sure to check out our website, check out the YouTube channel as well. We're putting more and more content up there now. Today, I am joined by Erik Rempen from Silk Softworks Studio and lead developer on Shantytown. Erik, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
Of course. So I always like to start off these kind of conversations, speaking with so many developers, it's always interesting to hear, the kind of trajectory of where individuals end up in the gaming industry. So I wonder if you'd be willing to tell me a little bit of, what got you into the world of game development?
I think my story is a bit unusual, I guess. I didn't do technical game education or anything like that. I didn't do computer science. I actually studied ecology in college. So I got into it just randomly. I used to do mods for games previously, like Jedi Knight and Morrowind and stuff, way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of forgot about it and kind of moved on, in college and had a couple of other jobs. And I was working at a marketing company, and I really disliked it. I was good at it, but I disliked it. Loved the work, hated the job, kind of thing. But I during that time I was like, okay, I got to get out of this system. How do I do it? And kind of game development was kind of brewing in the background of as a hobby. And I was like, okay, let me just take this on full time. Actually, that wasn't exactly what it was like, but I jumped into it more seriously, and then got picked up by a publisher. And then I thought, okay, that's the opportunity presented itself.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask, were you the person who did the development of mods that made the kind of aesthetic design mods, or the ones that I'm gonna put a giant Macho Man Randy Savage as the dragon in Skyrim kind of mod creator?
They were more world mods,
Okay.
world building. Yeah. So, and I don't think anything was released. I had a Half-Life mod that was pretty popular in Russia.
Oh,
But
nice.
anyways,
It's such a weird. The world of mods is something that I've never really dabbled much in, but I know it is expansive. As somebody who occasionally does dabble in Minecraft, I know that world of mods and that community is a rabbit hole I just don't have the time to go down at the end of the day. I think that is interesting to hear, though. And I think it does speak a little bit to how the gaming industry is not just this everyone that has come into the gaming industry has come from a background of no, I specifically went into game design. I think
Yeah.
actually, funny enough, I spoke to another dev a couple weeks ago who also worked in marketing and comms actually. And he kind of said the
Yeah.
same thing. He's like I liked the work, I didn't really like the job.
Yeah, and I think actually that marketing experience probably helped at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that I was a watercolor painter, so that helps
Okay.
in a sense as well. So yeah, the marketing, you kind of look out for what people are looking for, and I think that really helped when I was developing my game and trying to push it to audiences and
Mm-hmm.
try to catch people's eyes to try to create something that was visually interesting,
Mm-hmm.
or at least present it visually interesting
Yeah.
in a visually interesting way.
And I will say, the visual style of kind of moving into it is Shantytown was a very eye-catching game in the sense of the color palette is not a color palette I feel like you normally would see in video games. It was bright, but also still kind of muted at times as well, which I found really, really cool. I guess what kind of served as some of the inspiration behind the development of Shantytown, whether it's the aesthetic of building the world, or even just the concept of the world itself too?
But the visual aesthetic of Shantytown actually changed over time. So it started out a lot more dark, a lot
Mhm.
more cyberpunk and
Okay.
gritty.
Mm-hmm.
And but the gameplay didn't change too much over the course of development. It was always kind of this uh, relaxing building game. It did change a bit. We could talk about that, how
Yeah.
it changed it. But it basically, I kind of you put things out, and then over time I realized that I was creating a cozy game. I didn't really know what that genre was at the time, and I fell into it quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the dark aesthetic was actually pushing cozy players away from it. and the people who like that dark aesthetic generally may not be into that type of a game. And this is kind of a generalization. Obviously, there are people that like both.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think I kind of struck a balance of like, oh, this is like, you can tell that it's a friendly game like at first glance, but it's also like, oh, there's something else going on here. Like there's some darkness to it.
Yeah.
Still, it's maintained.
I found the interesting thing, like, you know, as like I played through the game, and it was very like you have these much more open areas, but then you get into some of the areas of the world where I'm like, you know, as somebody who has like, you know, seen Blade Runner a few times, it's like it's very Blade Runner-esque at times, like even like, you know, like the neon aesthetic and like the dark cramped alleyways at times, like, oh, this is like very cyberpunky to a certain extent as well, which, as you said, it has a much darker aesthetic, but you know, it's if you kind of falls into the cozy rabbit hole, it's like, is that going to turn away a potential audience? Now, funny enough, we have a podcast on our site called Girl Pod, and one of the co-hosts of it, she is a cozy gamer, but her stance when it comes to cozy gaming is what you make it. You can make a cozy game. You can make cozy gaming out of a game like Phasmophobia. It just depends how you present it. So, but you are right when it comes to, you know, I think what people think of immediately when it comes to cozy gaming is bright colors, nothing really too dark. I think the other thing that I found that kind of, I don't know if this maybe was kind of like one of the inspirations as well, was like, you know, looking at like the ways in which you build in Shantytown was almost like the Kowloon walled city, where it was kind of like everything is just kind of compacted on top of itself, and it's like, how much can we get into this tiny finite area at the end of the day?
Yeah, and actually Kowloon walled city was one of the initial inspirations.
Okay.
So it was kind of like that. Because of the Kowloon walled city, for people who don't know, it's like this fascinating urban block where there were no rules, so it just grew into this massive block of like, I think they were like 14 or 16 story buildings. And I really was curious on like how that organic urban growth happens, and that's the kind of element I wanted to answer that question with this game. So, and I think I did, because you put stuff out and you're like, okay, this is the best place for this right now, or like whatever. And then later on, you're like, oh no, I have more houses to put out. Where can I put them? Okay, let's stack them, or like, let's squeeze this in here. This is the perfect spot. And you kind of have to deal with those previous choices.
Oh yeah, I learned that the hard way when it was like, and it's like you like put out a few houses, like, oh, this looks great. I'm like, I have 5 more houses to put in this area now. Where am I putting them at this point? But I think it also, I think, speaks to so many other, like, how even like the Kowloon walled city has served as inspiration for not even video games, but like film as well. You know, like looking at movies like Dread, or I know there's a new title coming out called, I think, Defect, where it also kind of functions in like these massive structures where like there's so much compacted in this one area that just goes up at the end of the day.
And I did want to take some of that aesthetic and pull it away from that like depressing cyberpunk feel as well, because like the communities in a lot of those types of neighborhoods are like, it's a positive community vibe as well, you know, like they're it's a village within a neighborhood type of thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring the color out in that and to show some of the beauty and the chaos a little bit.
No, and I do think that there really was that element of it. It's like, it's even building, it's like, as somebody who's like originally from a more like rural area, but like, you know, I live, just for context, I live just outside of New York City, so it's not like the full urban landscape, but it's getting close to it. But I mean, as somebody who doesn't come from a background of that area, like, it's beautiful, but I like look at it, I'm like, I couldn't live here. It's just feeling all of that around me all the time. But there is a beauty to it at the end of the day, that it is like all these, I think when we were at PAX, I think you noted like just like the little tiny corners of like just this one specific pocket right here in like an alleyway, where it'll be like, okay, there's a vending machine and a trash can and maybe like one street light above it, but there's also like a neon light behind it that's kind of casting that glow into the alley too. So the whole kind of one area where like you could just focus on that one slice in that area to kind of talk
really
about.
Comes together at the end.
Now, I know you know, in kind of doing my research, you know, I know Shantytown, it did seem to share, like, I could tell some, like, common, like, not pieces, but, like, kind of some of the almost aesthetics with, Kanga, Seeds of Civilization.
Yeah.
Did kind of the idea, part of the idea of Shantytown come from Kanga, or was Kanga kind of its own separate project in and of
Um,
itself?
Panga was my first project, and it was separate initially.
Mm-hmm.
Shantytown, from the beginning, I knew it would have. It was supposed to be set in the same worlds, but
Mhm.
like 10,000 years apart.
Okay.
And that was kind of the goal. So I do have some creature overlaps and that kind of a thing.
That
There's
was the
some,
first thing I noticed. Was I'm
yeah,
like, I know, I see those. I recognize those big walking guys.
yeah. I just thought it would be really cool because I have those in the previous game, and I just thought it would be really cool to think like, what would it be like if those were still around at this time? Like,
Mm.
how would they be used? And so I kind of created this story where they used to be used to transport like shipping containers, and then
Mm-hmm.
since they built this big train tunnel, then they aren't used anymore, and now they're like people building houses on them or
Yeah.
advertisements.
I think that was one of the more interesting. Like I think it wasn't like one of the main regions in Shantytown, but one of the side ones where like, here's this like this one like larger creature. Build your stuff on top of it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And it
It's
was
all like shaking around. And, yeah.
I will admit, from someone who does get motion sick, I'm like, oh no, but dude, you gotta stop moving. You gotta stop
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah,
Only
the-
even for trying to put stuff down, I'm like, if you're constantly moving, I can't place this the exact way that I need it.
Yeah, there's a little pause button. You can
Mhm.
pause the movement. But yeah, I did take some inspiration from Kainga, but I did want to kind of separate it as well because the gameplay is quite different, even though they're both building games, which I think is kind of my strength for now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, so the answer is like basically yeah, they're set in similar worlds, but not simultaneous.
Yeah. I found it interesting with Kanga. I think even like the description on Steam notes it as kind of a roguelite. And I'm like, well, Shantytown kind of has that element too, where it's like you have here are the elements you are going to get in this world. There doesn't seem to be I could be wrong. There doesn't seem to be a fully prescribed way in the order in which you get them. It's like, we know you're going to have these elements. We're just not going to really, there's not going to be a clear-cut order to when it's going to be coming out, which, as you said earlier, it's like you go in with the best of intentions, like, I want to design this area of this section of the world this way, but then it's like, okay, well, now I have 5 more houses and like the space of, to put 2 essentially.
Yeah, I mean it's semi-randomized, so
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty curated to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through a lot of iterations. Like I went through kind of a more roguelike version
Okay.
where you used to like pick different directions. Like, okay, let's open like a bakery pack, and it would give you options or stuff like that. And then also I did like pure random, and both of those didn't work mechanically because the maps would turn out really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like there'd be like like 20 chairs and 10 benches, and you're like, another bench, like what do I do with this? So I really had to change the system and make it a little bit more curated.
Definitely. I had heard about Shantytown in some of the showcases that came out last year, but like my first time actually like getting my hands on it was actually at this past year's PAX East, where you were featured as one of the games at the PAX Rising Showcase. Can you tell me a little bit about how that experience was? I mean, for anyone who's not been to PAX East, the PAX East Rising Showcase is kind of its own little separate, nicely carpeted area where it's kind of like the almost hand-picked and curated, like, these are games we really want to highlight here at PAX East this year. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was super cool. It's right in the middle, and people keep their eye out. People like you would keep their eye out for the games there because they've been hand curated. I think it's so it's quite an honor, and really happy to do that. And the carpet was nice.
As somebody who spent the entire weekend walking around on the concrete floor, it's like okay. Every once in a while, I'm just gonna walk through the PAX Rising Showcase area just so I have a moment of reprieve on my feet.
Yeah,
But that's
anyway,
good.
I met a lot of people there. Yeah, and the games there were really cool. It was cool.
Yeah, there were a couple of other games I I kind of like looked at while I was in that area, just because obviously like being press, you do get a lot of like notifications of like who's going to be there and things like that, and yeah, I found myself there a few times, but it is always very interesting to see that like what gets put in that showcase is always very unique. Is that it's not it's doing something that's typically not being done in other games, or if it's being done in a very different manner. Like, you know, case in point, Shantytown, where it is a kind of, even as you posed it, I think it's explained, is that it's a diorama building game kind of to a certain extent, which I do find is very it's an interesting way to phrase it, which I do find very cool. Is that it's like, you know, everyone always thinks like, oh, it's world building. I'm like, well, it kind of is, but it's like you're just building this one area and that's it. It's
Yeah, just a small neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I think they did a good job of picking a variety of games as well. Like there were no two games were similar to each other.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, and I've even last year, like the games that were there last year, nothing like games that were there this year, which I found interesting. I think like last year there was a point and click puzzle game that involved time travel. There was also a kind of Doom-like shooter as well, with kind of like not like lower res graphics, but like not like, you know, cutting edge graphics kind of thing. And then this year it was, you know, like Shantytown Like Yours. There was also a Metroidvania where you're a dinosaur. And there was even which
a roller skating tactics game.
I did see that one, and I think my personal, it wasn't very interesting, but it's a very niche market, was an arcade box style game of a highlight game. And I'm like, but the interesting thing with that one was, I'm like, because it's a box arcade game, it's like the only way you'd ever be able to play it is by going to your local arcade and asking them, would you be willing to put this in your arcades? Which, I mean, in the United States, freestanding arcades are not as common as they once were. I think nowadays you're hard pressed to find an independently owned one outside of like the more corporate run ones, like, you know, a Dave and Buster's or a not Formula One. There's another one that exists on the west coast of the United States as well. That's kind of an arcade also, but it's a corporate run like entity.
Yeah. That's an uphill marketing battle.
It really is. So I guess, you know, we're about a month out now from the, you know, the launch of Shantytown. What does, you know, if you're at liberty of talking about it, what does the future of Shantytown look like right now? Will there be kind of like further content added to it? Will the world be expanded upon, or is that kind of still something that's like, you know, we're still thinking about it right now?
Right now, I'm working on a little summer update, so I have some new items to come out for like some summer activities. I have like this system of like seasonal activities or seasonal items that get added in like at certain times. Like I did a Chinese New Year one and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
But apart from that, I am cooking or perhaps simmering a little bit of a DLC. I have some ideas for how I can take these mechanics and kind of expand on it in different and unique ways with different architecture styles and kind of different environments. And I think it could be fun.
I think the one thing, and this is going back, but I kind of just like it struck on me as well, is like I liked, and again, this is totally unrelated to what we were just talking about, but remembering the end of the game where you kind of get the option of like, you know, being like the premise of the game is you're there kind of doing an ecological study of the world to be like, what impact is society having on this planet at the end of the day? And you very much are given the option to be like these should be retained for what they are because of the beauty of it, or these should be level, which I found it very interesting. Like, who's the monster that's picking we should level all of this at this point when you've spent so much time curating and building this little world? And it's like, yeah, just bulldoze all.
It was actually originally the leveling was the only option, and the only way to get out of it. Yeah, there was like a secret ending where you had to like try to escape out of the game and not push the button. But my publisher was like, it's not going to work because everybody's going to push the button, and even if they don't want to, because that's how we play games, right? So so I came up with the options. I think it's a little bit more gentle, and actually it comes up based on how you answer that survey at the end.
Yeah, no, that's what I kind of figured. It was very much like, you know, and very much like, you know, like either you're really like into what it is, or it's like you don't, or you're not at the end of the day, which I think is interesting. It does kind of immediately kind of like push you into a direction. Now I would hope after spending the time in the world that you would grow to love it. But I mean,
Yeah.
some people might just do it for the joke.
For the chaos, yeah.
Yeah,
And those
exactly.
people get that reward as well.
Exactly. I guess to kind of like close out our conversation, this is something I ask other, developers, as, someone who is a game developer, you spend most of your days eating, living, and breathing gaming. Obviously, though, I would always hope that, gaming is still a part of your life. What are some games that have kind of like really inspired you, or what are games that you're just currently obsessed with right now?
It's interesting because like while I'm developing games, I actually don't have a lot of time to play them.
Okay.
Like I do keep up to date on like what's coming out and how they're played. So I watch some like let's plays or reviews and stuff on modern games. And now that I'm like released a game, I can finally like okay, look at all the backlog and see what's actually interesting and what do I want to jump into. So I've been actually playing some RPGs because those are, when you're working like full time, you're like, there's no way. Like I can't jump into like
that's fair.
Expedition 33 or whatever. So, but I've been playing a little game called Banquet for Fools, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's like this claymation RPG. It's really, really weird. Yeah, it's like you have like a party of 4 and you're like wandering this world and trying to like discover what's going on. Apart from that, I play some games with my brothers once in a while just to like keep in touch, like doing some Valheim or something. That's our cozy game, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that fell down the Valheim rabbit hole during the during the global pandemic, where it's just like, what are you guys doing? We're playing Valheim. I'm like, I know you guys are, but like, what are you doing in Valheim right now?
Yeah. I have some huge gripes with that. I think it's poorly designed, but I still find myself in there, so.
It's like it's very much like I dislike everything about this game sometimes, but I'm still going to be here playing it every once in a while. I think we all have those games. Is that like we have our qualms with it, but we always go back to it too.
Yeah, but I think I've been doing a bit of RPGs, and I've been thinking about kind of like because I made games in multiple different genres so far. Like I made kind of an RTS roguelite, and now like a diorama-builder. I'm trying to think of like what else. Where do I want to push that, or where do I want to go next? So some other games like Faster Than Light or Into the Breach, I really enjoy those. Like tactics.
I think I know Faster. I actually think I might own Faster Than Light. It's sometimes those things with like your Steam library where you just get games and it's just like, I think I own it kind of thing.
Yeah. Or you opened it for 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, and it's for me it's like I can't even remember. Like I know I've heard of Faster Than Light. I'm like I can't even think off the top of my head. I'm like, what is that game about again? Or like what even style of gameplay is that?
It's like a space. You like manage a crew and you're like in a spaceship and you
that sounds
just like manage where the crew go, and yeah, it's like 2D. It's pretty old actually now, but I don't know. It's not old, but yeah.
Old is me talking about like my initial forays into video games, where my first gaming was in the original Game Boy. Like that's how old I am. So,
Yeah.
I guess too.
What about you? What games are you playing recently?
I am so very hard down the Slay the Spire 2 rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing that, and I have a Steam Deck, so it only feeds into that addiction even more to be like, oh, I'm laying in bed, I'm like, I could do a run of Slay the Spire right now. And
yeah, I won't buy it because I know I'll get sucked into it.
Yeah, it's myself, my partner, she is also a rabid fan of it as well. I think a couple of the other devs within Gamer Social Club are also Slay the Spire fans, so it's like all of us are like just spending our free time playing Slay the Spire. When we're not doing reviews, we're like, yeah, we're playing Slay the Spire inside. And last night
it's co-op too, huh?
It is co-op, yeah. The co-op is a really interesting mechanic that kind of it makes it very interesting in terms of building your strategy out, but then also the game does get much harder, as understandably so. And the other, last night I just started the Lego Batman Dark Knight Legacy, which it's actually my first. I know about the Lego games. I know they've done tons of them. This is my actual first one I'm ever playing because I've heard so many good things about it. And I'll be totally honest, Matthew Berry being Bane, I'm like, I need to play that game solely to hear Matt Berry just voicing Bane.
Yeah, I've heard the Lego games are actually really good.
They
I
are.
heard they smash it out of the park every time.
It's you know what it is that it's like, as somebody who does enjoy parody of, like, popular things, the games are very self-aware of, like, we love this entity in and of itself, but we are going to make fun of it the entire time that we're doing so.
Yeah.
Like, even like like, have you seen Batman Begins?
Yeah, yeah.
So the whole thing of, finding the blue flower that, is used in the League of Shadows, it shows Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul climbing the mountain to reach the monastery, and then there's just a cart at the top that's just selling the flowers. So it's just very self-aware that it's silly, but it does still stay relatively true to the storyline too, which I find funny.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
I guess to wrap up, Eric, where can people, find you on socials, find more about Shantytown, things like that?
I'm on YouTube. I make devlogs. And I'm also on Instagrams, which Silk Softworks for all of it. Instagram and TikTok sometimes. And yeah, I'm on Discord every day. So if you want to actually talk directly to me, come by the Discord and say hello.
Awesome. Well, Eric,
Yeah, happy to share like any solo dev adventures or like advice on how to like start an indie company or whatever.
I think
To share my experience. I may not be the best person to talk to, but I can share my experience at least.
I think it does say a lot to how much the landscape of game development has changed. Where it used to be, you had to be like you needed several people. Nowadays, like, you can be one person and develop a game at the end of the day.
Yeah, the
Which
tools are all there, and the education is available. So
Mhm.
it's on it's whether you have the time and the patience and the persistence.
Exactly. Well, Eric, I thank you for your time. Guys, be sure to check out Shantytown. Our review is on the website. And Eric, thank you so much again, and we will catch you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for having me.